Well, I'll have to edit this part out. So here we go. We're going to deal with Mr. Handel and his, we're going to do a little opera seria today. And Handel, as you can see, here's the very proper picture of him that we all know. This is maybe the not so proper picture of Handel. And he was known for his great appetites. And as we have a quote from Mr. Goopy here, what a great name, George Goopy. So, though figures odd, yet who would think within this ton of meat and drink there dwells the soul of soft desires, and all that harmony inspires. Could contrast such as this be found upon the globe's retorsive round? And he says that there can you hogshead is his seat, his sole devotion is to. Now, I bet you've never heard of a hogshead before. And you're probably thinking of an actual pig's head.
It's a measurement.
It is a measurement, actually. It's a very large barrel of wine. There's a hogshead. They're gigantic. Huge. So, yes. You like to drink his wine, and there's the story about him going into a restaurant and ordering 2 meals, and the person asking who was going to be joining him, and he said, "No, it's for me." So. I was going to see if you all are going to just jump out of your chairs. Now notice the original, this is more like the original. It's not written for gigantic forces like we see it today. But anyway, I just wanted to see if you guys, you know the story behind the people standing out of tradition. I think there's a couple stories, which is that the queen walked in while they were rehearsing. Everybody stands up for the queen, so, or that the queen actually stood up when it was played. And of course, if the queen stands up, you stand up. But originally, this was premiered in Dublin, so we had a sort of a festival, not for professionals. Alrighty. So, what I'd like to do is just brainstorm a little here on what you know about Mr. Handel. And actually, it's been accepted now in English that we call him Handel, but technically you put the umlaut over the A, and it becomes Handel. Yeah, that's what it is. If you get the score, it'll say Handel on it, and then on the inside it says get to the chopper. All right, that's bad. All right, so let's just, what do you know? What do you already know about this fellow? Baroque composer, right. Born the same year as Bach, died a few years later. What else do you know about him?
Operas and oratorios.
Operas and oratorios, pretty well known, especially for his operas and oratorios, and more currently for his oratorios. The funny thing, oratoria, is that, of course, the one that everyone knows is Messiah, but there are a lot of others. But it's just because Messiah gets done every year. Yeah?
Didn't he and also Bach both die from the same complication?
Yes, you remember that story. They both had cataracts.
From the same.
And they both went to the same doctor, I think his name is James Taylor. James Taylor, not the, the folk singer. I have to double check the name on that. But yes, went to the same eye doctor for the cataracts. Both got bad infections and ended up accelerating their demise. Yeah, absolutely. What else do you know about him? Where did he work most of his life?
London.
In London, right? Worked mostly in London. But, was he English?
No.
No. Where was he from?
German.
Germany, right. So he's from Halle, Germany. Halle. That's right. Actually born not too far away from Bach, I think about 50 miles away. Bach was born in Eisenach in Halle. And then he ended up going around, and actually one of the places he spent several years studying was in Italy, where he learned how to, that's really where he learned his compositional style. And his operas definitely show that, that experience. What else do you know about him? All right, let's roll down a little bit here. So only 50 miles away from where Bach was born in the same year. As is so much the case, as you know, his parents wanted him to be a lawyer. But he showed enough talent after a while, his parents actually decided to let him pursue music. And he went as the organist of the Calvinist cathedral when he was 17 years old, pretty young. Okay? And then he went down, John de Medici. Remember these folks from before? Who were they? Were the where were they the ruling family? Not Venice. Florence, right? Yeah, the Medici and Florence. Always remember, if I ask you Medici, especially in the Renaissance, Florence. Medici, Florence. Okay, good. And so he studied. He also went down in Rome and Naples and Venice and studied Vivaldi. Okay, comes back to Hanover. Now the funny thing that happens, and I won't run through all of this stuff on here. I'm not going to read this to you. But he ended up working for George of Hanover, who then, and then he left for England, and George wasn't really happy. Well, then all of a sudden George married and became the King of England. So he ended up working for George, but they worked well together. And he wrote a lovely piece. I'm not sure too many of you, the Queen Anne just loved him, and he wrote a ceremonial ode to her. I don't know if any of you have heard this before, but it's just magnificent. do, yeah, we talked about it. And I would like to talk a little bit now, I'm not going to go through all of that because we need to get ahead here. Some opera seria. And I'm sorry the way this kind of got, when it got transferred over, it kind of smushed together, so we'll do the best we can with this. And what I'm going to need is my Arcadian group up to talk about the Arcadian Academy. Whoa! Let me turn this down so it doesn't hum.
So the Arcadian Academy was an association founded in Rome in 1690 for the reform and purification of Italian poetry, in particular the opera libretto.
Ah, okay, good. Actually, that's, do you have the actual Italian name for it? Accademia degli Arcadia, right. And so, again, they were looking, say that again for me, Anthony, what were they trying to do?
Reform and, I guess, purify Italian poetry.
Italian poetry and art, and
Yeah.
did you notice who inspired this group? There was a particular person that came before this that they sort of created it in honor of.
Queen Christina of Sweden.
Queen Christina of Sweden. Did you get some background on her?
I just know that she was the leading patron of like literature and other arts. She was very big into that.
Right. But yet, she was the Queen of Sweden, but...
That's all
she was the Queen of Sweden, but she had a fascination with Rome. So she went down there and spent a lot of time in Rome, much to the chagrin of the Swedish people. They kind of felt left behind by her. She was more interested in the Italian arts than in Sweden. Well, it's a lot warmer in Rome than it is up in Sweden, but you know, that's the way it is. Okay, good. Keep going.
Like Anthony said, it was put together, or the principal intention of it was to reform the diction of Italian poetry, which the founders believed had become corrupt through overindulgence in the ornamentation of the Baroque style.
Ooh, okay. So let's back that up a little bit. So the language had become corrupted by the Baroque style, even though we are in the middle of the High Baroque.
In the ornamentation of the Baroque style. So
Yeah.
they focus on trying to, I think, in my opinion, convert everything back to like the original.
Mm-hmm.
The original style, like the Florentine Camerata.
Ah.
They were.
Ask them.
Who are the Florentine Camerata? Anybody?
Do you remember the Florentine Camerata, guys? Right, it's a camera with a lot of spinach on it. Dun, 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 dun. Florentine Camerata? Come on, guys.
They had a group of intellectuals that just kind of wanted art,
It's the Greek tragedies.
Ah, yes.
Hey, you were close.
Go ahead, tell them. for
There
us.
were a group of musicians and poets and intellectuals in the late Renaissance Florence who gathered under the patronage of Count Giovanni Guardi.
Okay, yep.
And they focused or discussed and guided new trends in the arts, especially in music and drama. So they like to create new things. And then Arcadian Academy didn't like that so much, or they focused more on turning things like the original old style way.
Well, really? Or